A week after the art exhibition, campus life started to feel normal again. Classes, cafe runs, late night walks back to the dorm, the usual rhythm had returned. Melissa and I were finally on better terms. Things weren't awkward anymore, which was honestly a relief. But while I was sorting out my own mess, my best friend John was facing his own challenges. John wasn't the artsy type, sports were his thing, basketball especially. Ever since our first year, he'd talked about joining his department's team. He had the height, the energy, and that kind of confidence that made people watch whenever he stepped onto the court. He'd even played back in high school, and he was good. The problem was, he'd missed last semester's tryouts after injuring his leg during a pickup game gone wrong. Now that he'd finally recovered, the new season's tryouts were just around the corner, and he wasn't sure if he was ready. "I don't know, man," John said one afternoon, sitting across from me in our room. "The coach already has his starters. They've been training for months. I'm just gonna look like some random dude trying to catch up." "You are some random dude trying to catch up," I said with a grin. "But that doesn't mean you can't make the team." The next day, John and I were walking across campus when we noticed a group of guys playing basketball on one of the outdoor courts. John slowed down, watching the game, the worn-out hoop, the faded court lines, the sound of sneakers squeaking and players shouting for the ball. Just then, the ball bounced off the court and rolled toward us. "Hey, jerk! Don't you see the ball in front of you?" one of the players yelled. The rest of them burst into laughter. John picked up the ball, squared his shoulders, and, without saying a word, took a shot. The ball hit the rim, bounced once, and dropped cleanly through the net. "Hey! Nobody told you to shoot," another guy snapped. "You trying to act tough or something?" "But it was a pretty great shot," one of his teammates said with a smirk. The first guy sneered. "All right, tough guy. How about this, we go one-on-one. 10 shots. If you beat me, I'll actually be impressed." John grinned. "You're on." I sat down on the bleachers, watching as they set up for the quick game. The match started, and John immediately took control. His footwork was sharp, his shots clean. The other guy didn't stand a chance. By the end, John had completely outplayed him. The rest of the team was stunned, especially when they found out John wasn't even from their department. "Wait, you're not finance major?" one of them asked. "Nope," John replied, catching his breath. "Engineering." They exchanged surprised looks. "You're not on your department?" He shrugged. "I missed tryouts last semester. I got injured." The guy John had beaten leaned forward, still looking a bit embarrassed but intrigued. "You know," he said slowly, "our team could really use someone like you. We're not exactly killing it right now." John raised an eyebrow. "You're kidding, right? You know that's not allowed." The player smirked. "I know, but think about it, the school tournament's coming up. If you play for us, we might actually have a shot at winning. No one has to find out." It was a crazy idea. Everyone knew that if you were caught playing for another department, the whole team could be disqualified, and the player involved could be banned from all school tournaments. Still, I could tell John was tempted. The school tournament only happened once a year, and next year he'd be on internship, meaning it'd be 2 whole years before he got another chance to play competitively. It was a huge opportunity, but also a dangerous one. John sat back on the bench, looking at the court, the same place he'd just reminded everyone of his talent. His fingers tapped against the basketball as if weighing his options. "Man," he muttered, almost to himself, "I've been waiting so long to play again." And I could see it in his eyes, that hunger, that love for the game. He was torn between doing what was right, and chasing the one thing he loved most. The offer from the finance boys lingered in John's mind for days. He tried to shake it off, but every time he saw the basketball court or heard the bounce of a ball, the thought came back stronger. One night, he finally asked me. "If you were in my shoes," he said, staring at the ceiling, "what would you do?" I thought for a while before answering. "Honestly, you're not really famous around here, nobody would even notice if you joined another team." He turned his head toward me. "You sure about that?" "Yeah, but here's the thing," I continued, "you're too good, bro. The moment you start shining on that court, people will want to know who you are, and that's how you'll get caught." John sighed. "So what? You're saying I shouldn't do it?" I shook my head. "Not exactly, I have an idea." He raised an eyebrow. "I'm listening." "Since you're kind of invisible in your department," I said, leaning forward, "why don't you play under someone else's name, maybe a bench player in the finance team who rarely gets time on the court? The school doesn't even check faces properly, they just see the name." John stared at me for a few seconds, then broke into a small grin. "That's actually not a bad idea." "Exactly, low risk, high reward," I said. The next day, John called one of the finance players, who gave him the location for their next training session. John started practicing with them that same week. Days turned into weeks, and soon he became a core part of their team. His presence changed everything. Their passing got sharper, teamwork improved, and their confidence grew. He built sportsmanship and unity around the players like he'd been their captain all along. Surprisingly, John began to bond with the finance guys. One of them, a quiet student named Raymond, eventually offered him his spot. "Look man," Raymond said after practice one day, tossing the ball to John, "you can play under my name. I don't really care about being on the roster, you deserve it more." John hesitated. "You sure about this?" Raymond nodded. "We need you, John, and honestly, I think you need this too." You might wonder why John agreed to play for another department. The truth was simple, he didn't care about which team he played for, he just wanted to play basketball. The school's department tournament was the biggest event of the year, and this was his shot. The weeks leading up to the tournament were brutal. John trained almost every day, and I low-key turned myself into his coach, shouting advice, recording his practice, and hyping him up like he was the guy from Creed.